I brushed her off with a sharp look and a comment that shut the whole room down. In my mind, she was just support staff, someone meant to stay quiet and keep the equipment running. I had no idea that the same woman I dismissed would later be staring back at me through her own scope, balanced in a place no normal soldier should have been able to reach on that cliff face. The black metal Reaper ring on her finger flashed briefly as she settled her rifle and slowed her breathing. That ring was not decoration. Only the most elite covert operators wore it, the kind of soldiers so classified they did not officially exist anywhere. By the time I finally understood who she really was, she had already saved my entire team, and I never once saw her coming. If you enjoy stories about hidden heroes and moments when the truth hits hard, consider subscribing. Your support helps bring more untold military stories into the open. My helicopter set down at Forward Operating Base Ironclad in a storm of dust and cold mountain air. The base sat deep in a classified border region, surrounded by Silverhawk terrain and silence that felt heavy. I had a reputation by then, decorated, demanding, and known for having zero patience for anything less than perfection. "Welcome to Ironclad, Colonel," Captain Michael Reeves said as he met me on the pad. His uniform was squared away, his posture rigid. "The teams are ready for your briefing, sir." Inside the command center, I scanned the room automatically. Faces, ranks, posture. I logged it all without thinking. Then my eyes stopped on a woman standing off to the side. She was in plain clothes, focused on communications equipment. No tactical vest. No rank markings. Nothing that screamed operator. "Is this the full roster, Captain?" I asked. "Yes, sir," Reeves replied. "That includes our logistics and communications support specialist, Evelyn Cross." She gave a small nod without lifting her eyes from the console and kept working. Something about that caught my attention. Her movements were clean and exact. Too controlled. Too deliberate for someone who was supposedly just support. It did not quite add up, but I pushed the thought aside. During the briefing, I laid out the mission. We were tracking insurgent movement through a narrow mountain pass. Intelligence suggested a high-value target would move through the area within 48 hours. "We will place our primary observation team here," I said, pointing to a ridge on the tactical display. "Clear sight lines straight into the valley." "Sir," she spoke up for the first time. Her voice was steady, calm, and confident. "Satellite data shows wind patterns that could compromise that ridge. There is another position here that offers similar visibility with better protection from eastern gusts." The room went dead quiet. I lifted my head slowly and looked straight at her. My patience snapped. "Let's keep tactical decisions with qualified combat personnel," I said flatly, "not support staff." Then I turned back to the map. "The primary position gives us the best visual advantage." And with that, I shut her down completely. "Yes, sir," Evelyn said, already turning back to her station. There was no attitude in her voice, no visible reaction at all. She just went back to work like the exchange never happened. As the briefing wrapped up, I noticed something I had missed before. When she reached up to adjust a piece of equipment, a ring flashed briefly under the overhead lights. Black metal, heavy, distinct. The moment she realized I was looking, she slid her hand out of sight. That stuck with me. Later, while the sniper element was gearing up to move toward the ridge I had chosen, Captain Reeves pulled Evelyn aside near the far end of the command center. I was close enough to catch fragments of the exchange. "I served in Khorramshahr," Reeves said quietly. "I know exactly what that ring means." Evelyn didn't respond right away. She just looked at him, unreadable. "How many operations?" Reeves pressed. "Enough to know that ridge is compromised," she said evenly, sidestepping his question entirely. She was right. The weather turned faster than any forecast had predicted. Thick fog poured into the valley like a living thing, swallowing the ridge where our sniper team was already set. The radio traffic shifted almost immediately. voices tight and clipped. Sierra 1 to base. Visibility severely reduced. Requesting alternate positioning. Static tore through the transmission before they could finish. Sierra 1, repeat, I barked into the handset, irritation bleeding into my voice. Nothing answered back but broken noise. Fix the damn communications, I snapped, turning toward Evelyn. She was already moving, fingers flying across controls, completely calm. This isn't equipment failure, she said softly. They're being jammed. The next transmission confirmed it. Movement. Multiple hostiles approaching our... The signal cut out entirely. I grabbed my tactical vest and weapon. I'm going up there, I said. I want eyes on this myself. Then I pointed at Evelyn. You. Stay here and get those comms back online. As I moved out with a 4-man security element, Reeves glanced back toward her station. Evelyn was already gone. Her workspace was empty, and the battered, weather-worn case she kept under her bunk was open, stripped clean. The trail up the mountain narrowed as the fog thickened. I took point, unease settling deeper with every step. Silence from the sniper team meant one thing, and none of the possibilities were good. If insurgents had overrun that position, the entire operation was hanging by a thread. Close intervals, I ordered as visibility dropped to less than 10 meters. Watch your sectors. Sound felt muted, trapped by the fog. It wrapped around us, heavy and unnatural. Every shape ahead looked like it could come alive at any second. I checked my communicator again. Still, nothing but static. Whatever was jamming us wasn't improvised. This was professional-grade equipment, the kind we didn't expect to see in this region. Jackson, our point man, raised a clenched fist. The team froze instantly. "Movement ahead, sir," he whispered. "Can't confirm friendly." I edged forward, eyes straining through the white haze. Slowly, a figure took shape, stumbling toward us. Corporal Reyes, I recognized him as the sniper team's spotter. "Colonel," he gasped, barely upright. His voice was ragged, eyes wide with shock. "They came out of nowhere, multiple hostiles, advanced gear." He swallowed hard. Calarison took a round to the shoulder. And in that moment, I knew I had made a serious mistake. We had no choice but to pull back off the ridge. The position was burned. "Where's the rest of your team?" I asked, keeping my voice low but sharp. "Secondary sight, about 150 meters northeast," Reyes said between breaths. Sullivan stayed behind to hold overwatch. I doubled back to make contact. "Did you get a count on the enemy?" I asked. "Any idea where they're moving from?" "At least 8 confirmed," he replied. "Could be more. They're running thermal and moving in coordinated patterns. This isn't standard insurgent behavior." That clicked immediately. This was not a random group with stolen gear. This was either special forces or highly trained mercenaries. Either way, the mission had just changed in a big way. "Take us to your team," I said. "We'll regroup and reassess from there." We moved slowly through the fog, every step measured. As we advanced, my thoughts drifted back to Sen and the warning she gave during the briefing. She had flagged the ridge before any of this went sideways. Had she seen something the rest of us missed? The question died in my head when a sharp rifle crack echoed across the mountains. "Contact," Reyes whispered. "That's Sullivan's rifle." We picked up the pace without breaking formation. Then 3 more shots rang out in rapid succession. Controlled. Disciplined. We reached a small rocky outcropping where the rest of the sniper team had dug in. Sergeant Sullivan was locked behind his rifle, steady and focused, scanning the slopes through his optic. "Report," I ordered. "Hostiles attempting to flank from the west, sir," Sullivan said without lifting his eye from the scope. 4 confirmed, but movement suggests more in the area. Lieutenant Keller was seated against a rock nearby, his left shoulder wrapped tightly in field dressings. Blood had soaked through despite the pressure. "They knew exactly where we were, Colonel," he said through clenched teeth. "They hit our blind spots with precision." The situation was getting worse by the minute. We were being boxed in by an enemy that knew how we operated. I needed a clearer picture fast. I moved to a slightly higher vantage point and brought up my own scope, scanning the ridgeline and valley in a slow, methodical sweep. The fog shifted constantly, opening brief windows of visibility before sealing everything shut again. Then, in one of those brief, clear moments, I saw movement. It was on a cliff face that should not have been passable, a near-vertical wall of rock, the kind of terrain that required specialized climbing gear and serious training. "What the hell?" I muttered, adjusting the focus. The figure moved with calm, deliberate control. No wasted motion. They settled into a firing position that overlooked the entire valley. Worse than that, it also covered the exact route my team had just used to approach. If that was an enemy observer, then we were already compromised. Completely. I stayed on the scope, studying the figure closely as the fog began to thin again. The positioning was flawless. Low exposure. Perfect use of cover. Whoever that shooter was, they knew exactly what they were doing. This was not luck, and it was not guesswork. I was looking at a professional. Then the clouds shifted. Sunlight cut through for just a second, and something on the shooter's hand flashed as they steadied the rifle. I adjusted my scope and zoomed in as far as the optics would allow. My chest tightened. It was a ring. Black metal. Heavy. Marked with a geometric design. Folded wings wrapping around a skull. The Reaper ring. I had only ever seen that symbol in the most restricted briefings. The kind you do not talk about afterward. It was tied to a program so deep in the shadows that most senior officers believed it was nothing more than a rumor. Echo Protocol. Soldiers who officially did not exist. Deployed only when a mission was too dangerous for standard forces to survive. As the figure shifted slightly, the fog thinned just enough for me to see her face. It was Evelyn Cross, the same woman I had brushed off hours earlier as nothing more than support staff. I barely had time to register what I was seeing before her rifle spoke. 3 clean shots, controlled, precise. Through my scope, I watched 3 armed hostiles collapse one after another. All of them had been maneuvering to flank my security team. All of them threats I had not even identified yet. Then my radio cleared, like someone had flipped a switch. "Colonel," Captain Reeves said, his voice suddenly sharp and clear. "She advises you to pull back immediately. Your position is compromised." Training took over. I rolled left without thinking. A round slammed into the exact spot where my head had been a second earlier. A sniper shot from across the valley, one that would have ended me if I had hesitated. 4 more shots cracked from Evelyn's position. Fast. Surgical. The opposing sniper threat disappeared. "Sierra team is secure," Reeves continued. "They're moving to extraction point Delta. Echo has cleared the immediate threats." Echo. Hearing it out loud hit me harder than the gunfire. There was no doubt anymore. The woman I had dismissed was Echo Protocol. One of the most elite and secret assets in the entire military. And she had just saved my life, along with the lives of everyone under my command. "Understood," I said, forcing my voice steady. "Moving to Delta." I rallied my security detail and kept my composure, even as my thoughts raced. We stabilized Lieutenant Keller and began a controlled withdrawal toward the extraction point. As we moved, I looked back toward that impossible stretch of cliff. The place no one should have been able to reach. She was gone. Vanished without a trace. The return to base was quiet. Tense. Nobody spoke unless they had to. Twice more, precise shots from somewhere unseen eliminated threats before we even knew they were there. Each time, the only warning came from Reeves's calm voice over the radio, and each time, I knew exactly who was watching over us from the shadows. "Movement on your left flank, Colonel." The warning came a split second before a distant rifle crack echoed across the terrain. Another threat gone before we ever laid eyes on it. By the time we crossed the perimeter and stepped back inside the base, I half expected Evelyn to be standing there like nothing had happened. She wasn't. There was no sign of her anywhere. Captain Reeves met us at the gate, his expression locked down and unreadable. "Get Kelleros to medical," I said as we cleared the checkpoint. Then I leaned closer to Reeves and lowered my voice. "My office. Now." Inside the Spartan command office, I shut the door and turned to face him. "Explain," I said. "What exactly would you like me to explain, sir?" Reeves asked, calm as ever. "Don't play games with me, Captain," I snapped. "You knew who Cross was the moment she showed up." Reeves paused, choosing his words carefully. "I had suspicions, based on prior deployments. Confirmation came when I saw her ring. The Reaper ring." "Echo protocol," I said. "Yes, sir." I shook my head. "Echo operators are myths. Stories meant to scare insurgents and motivate junior troops. They don't actually exist." "With respect, Colonel," Reeves replied evenly, "that belief is intentional. That's exactly what they want most of the military to think." I dropped into my chair, the weight of everything finally catching up with me. Then why is she here? This mission matters, but it's hardly worth deploying a ghost. "Echo doesn't operate like conventional units," Reeves said. "They don't answer to the standard chain of command. Their taskings come from risk models and threat algorithms we never see." "So she just happened to get assigned to routine border surveillance?" "There's nothing routine about this sector," Reeves said. "Intelligence indicates a Class 1 target may transit through here." I looked up sharply. "Class 1? Possibly transporting nuclear materials." That hit hard. That wasn't in my briefing. "Need to know, sir," Reeves replied. "Apparently you didn't." The sting was real, but I pushed through it. "Where is she now?" "Debriefing with her handler over a secure channel," he said. "She'll likely maintain her cover until the mission ends or her presence is no longer required." "Her cover," I repeated, the word tasting bitter as I replayed how I'd dismissed her earlier. "That's by design," Reeves said. "Support staff are invisible. Perfect camouflage for someone who needs to observe without drawing attention." The door opened without a knock. Evelyn stepped inside. The change was subtle, but once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. Her posture was different. Her eyes sharper. Every movement efficient, controlled, deliberate. She wore the same plain clothes, yet somehow they no longer hid what she was. "Colonel," she said with a small nod. And for the first time since landing at Ironclad, I realized I had never truly seen her at all. "Captain," I said, rising to my feet. Then I hesitated. I honestly had no idea what the correct form of address was for someone who technically did not exist. "Specialist Cross." A faint smile touched her mouth. "Just Evelyn is fine, Colonel. My rank doesn't matter here." I exhaled and nodded. "Then I owe you an apology." The words felt awkward, but I meant them. "I dismissed you in front of everyone." "No, you didn't," she said calmly. "My cover worked exactly the way it was supposed to. If you had treated me differently, it could have exposed me." "You tried to warn us about the ridge," I said. "I did," she replied, "and your reaction actually helped." I frowned. "The insurgents had monitoring devices planted on that ridge," she continued. "They were listening. They knew exactly where your team would go because they heard your briefing." The realization hit hard. I clenched my jaw. "So the base is compromised." "Was compromised," she corrected. "I located and neutralized the surveillance equipment while you were moving with the security team." I studied her for a long moment. "Who are you, really?" She didn't answer right away. "Officially," she said at last, "I'm exactly what my file says. Logistics and communication support." "And unofficially?" She met my eyes. "Unofficially, I don't exist. That's the whole point of Echo Protocol." Captain Reeves cleared his throat. "Sir, we should prep for the Sierra team debrief." I nodded, even though my head was still spinning. "Conference room, 20 minutes." As Evelyn turned to leave, I noticed the black ring still on her finger. The Reaper. She caught my glance and stopped. "Why wear it at all?" I asked. If secrecy is everything. She thought for a moment. Sometimes being seen by the right person at the right time matters, she said. Today, it let you know your team wasn't alone. The debrief felt unreal. The sniper team walked us through the ambush, the sudden contact, the chaos. They spoke with open awe about an unknown shooter who had eliminated 8 hostiles with flawless precision. All surgical, Sergeant Sullivan said. Perfect timing, perfect angles. Evelyn sat quietly in the corner, appearing to take notes. No one questioned her presence. No one suspected a thing. Only Reeves and I knew the truth. Those shots came from the eastern cliff face, Sullivan continued. There's no access route up there. You'd need specialized climbing gear and elite-level training. I couldn't help myself. I glanced at Evelyn. After the room cleared, I faced her again. Reeves stayed by the door, silent. How many operations? I asked quietly. 29, she answered without hesitation. This one makes 30. I leaned back, a strange mix of respect and unease settling in. Why are you really here? This can't just be about one high-value target. I'm not here for credit, Colonel, Evelyn said. I'm here because someone ran the numbers. This mission had a 36% chance of failure. She's the contingency, Reeves added. Echo operators are embedded across critical operations, ordinary roles, constant observation, always ready. Most commanders never know, Evelyn said, unless something goes catastrophically wrong. I looked between them, the scale of it finally sinking in. How many more of you are out there? I asked, and suddenly I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer. That information is classified beyond your clearance, she said evenly, but trust me, we're exactly where we need to be. Night settled over the base, thick and cold. Security tightened across every perimeter, and the operation kept moving without pause. Intelligence feeds kept updating in real time. The high-value target had altered routes. Word had clearly reached them. The surviving insurgents had warned their people that the original corridor was burned. Evelyn stayed busy alongside the intelligence staff, working non-stop. Her skill was no longer hidden, but it still wasn't formally acknowledged. No announcements, no explanations. The rest of the personnel just accepted it. In a fluid operation like this, roles shifted fast, and nobody questioned why she suddenly had a seat at every table. Later, during a rare stretch of quiet, I found her alone in the communications center. Satellite imagery glowed across multiple screens as she studied it with complete focus. The mission's changing, I said. She didn't look up. Missions always change. Adaptation is the difference between success and failure. I paused, then added, kind of like adapting to a colonel who shut down your tactical advice. That finally got a reaction. Just a brief smile. Exactly, she said. I leaned against the console. What would you have done if I hadn't spotted you on that cliff? If I hadn't seen the ring? She raised her eyes to meet mine. My job, Colonel. Whether you knew I was there or not. That doesn't bother you? I asked. Working in the shadows, never getting credit. Recognition isn't why I do this, Evelyn said simply. Echo protocol exists because traditional military structures are too visible, too bound by procedure, too predictable. And you're not. I'm whatever the mission needs me to be. She turned back to the screens, including invisible support staff. I watched her for a moment longer before speaking. Briefings at 0700. I'd appreciate your input on the tactical approach. She nodded. Of course, Colonel. Then, with the faintest edge of humor in her voice, I'll try to make my suggestions sound less like they're coming from support staff this time. Dawn broke over forward operating base ironclad in streaks of amber and deep crimson, lighting the mountain peaks like they were on fire. The morning briefing felt different right away. Evelyn stood near the tactical display instead of tucked into a corner. I didn't hesitate to defer to her assessment as the intelligence updates came in. Our target has shifted south, she said, marking the route on the map. Satellite imagery confirms a 3-vehicle convoy moving through this valley. Estimated transit time is 1,400 hours. I looked at her. Recommendations? Observation only, she replied. We need confirmation of the materials before we consider direct action. The room was silent, and for the first time since this operation began, every person in that room understood one thing clearly. Whatever was coming next, we were going to see it before it ever saw us. I suggest 2 small teams here and here, I said, pointing to the map, with drones providing overhead coverage. Sergeant Sullivan studied the positions, frowning slightly. The eastern ridge gives better sightlines, she noted, but the approach is exposed. I can reach it, Evelyn said, calm and certain. No one flinched at her claim, even though getting there required technical climbing skills most of us didn't have. I had carefully briefed the senior operators, giving them a sanitized version of Evelyn's capabilities. Special reconnaissance, I called it with advanced training noted, but no mention of Echo Protocol. They knew she was capable. They didn't need the truth. Sullivan and Reyes take the western position, I decided. Cross takes east. The rest of us maintain base security and comms. Questions? The room stayed silent. The operator's eyes lingered on Evelyn with something new in them, a quiet respect. Move out in 30, I ordered. As the team dispersed to prep, Captain Reeves stepped up beside me. Sir, he said quietly, secure comm from command. Eyes only. Back in my office, I decrypted the message. My concern deepened. The intelligence wasn't just bad, it was catastrophic. The high-value target wasn't only moving nuclear materials, he was meeting representatives from 3 separate terrorist organizations to sell them off. When I stepped back out, Evelyn was waiting just outside my door. The situation's escalated, she said. No question mark, just a statement. How did you... I started, but she interrupted with a knowing glance. I got my own update through echo channels, she said. We're not just observing anymore. I ran through possibilities in my head. We aren't equipped for an interdiction of this scale. You're not, she said simply. But I am, and I've already called for support. Support? I asked, skeptical. From where? 2 more echo operators within 50 kilometers of here, she revealed. They'll be in position before the convoy arrives. I processed that, half relieved, half unsettled. Were they already here, or did you call them in? Does it matter? She asked, studying me. It matters to me, I admitted. One was already positioned as a contingency, she said. The other, redirected from a lower priority assignment. So that was how Echo worked. Operators embedded across the region, always ready, waiting to be activated. Throughout every region where American interests are at stake, she corrected. That's what we do, Colonel. Wait in the shadows until we're needed. The operation unfolded with a precision that almost felt unreal. Evelyn scaled the eastern ridge, impossible to reach for anyone not trained to the edge of human capability, using minimal gear. She established an observation post that commanded the entire valley. From up there, every movement of the convoy, every shadow along the slopes would be seen. And I knew, finally, that we weren't just observers anymore. We had someone out there who could see everything, and stop it before it stopped us. Sullivan and Reyes confirmed their positions on the western approach. Then 2 more operators appeared as if they had materialized from thin air. No introductions, no announcements. Their comms linked seamlessly into our tactical network, their presence instantly integrated. I stayed in the command center, eyes glued to the drone feeds as the convoy neared the pre-designated interception point. My earpiece crackled to life. Evelyn's calm, measured voice came through. I have visual confirmation. Target is in the lead vehicle. 3 heavily armed security teams. Thermal imaging indicates additional passengers in the middle vehicle, likely the buyers. Sierra team confirms. Sullivan added, we count 14 armed personnel, plus drivers. Echo 2 and 3 in position. An unfamiliar voice came online. Ready on your mark, Echo 1. It hit me immediately. Evelyn was Echo 1, the senior operator in this engagement. "Colonel, we are prepared to proceed," she said directly. Even though Echo Protocol seemed entirely autonomous, she still acknowledged my authority. The gesture didn't escape me. "Execute," I ordered. What followed was nothing short of surgical. All 3 Echo operators struck simultaneously. Security forces didn't stand a chance. The entire engagement was over in under 40 seconds. Not a single civilian harmed. No targets escaped. "Convoy secured," Evelyn reported, her tone steady. "High-value target contained, materials intact. Requesting extraction team for prisoners and evidence." "Already inbound," I confirmed, anticipating the need. "ETA 10 minutes." As the extraction team moved in, securing the captured personnel and materials, I found myself standing at the base perimeter with Captain Reeves, watching quietly. "Have you ever seen anything like that?" I asked. "Once," he admitted. "Khorramshahr. That's how I recognized the ring." I shook my head. "Who are these people, really?" "The best of the best," he said quietly. "The ones who vanish instead of becoming legends. At least, that's what I've pieced together. They don't exactly post recruitment criteria anywhere." Later, the debriefing room at Forward Operating Base Ironclad buzzed with activity. Senior officers from Regional Command arrived to take custody of the captured materials and intelligence. Evelyn sat quietly to the side as I gave my official report. At her request, I left out any mention of Echo Protocol. "The operation's success is due to exceptional intelligence and the skill of our reconnaissance teams," I concluded, keeping it diplomatic. Once the visiting personnel had cleared, I finally had a moment alone with her. "Your transport arrives in an hour," I said, glancing at the schedule. "Yes," she replied. "My assignment here is complete." "Where to next?" I asked. She gave the faintest smile. "That's classified, even from you. Back to being invisible support staff somewhere else. That's the job." I nodded. For the first time, I understood what that really meant. "Thank you," I said, my voice quieter now. "Not just for saving my team, but for what you do. What all of you do." "Most of us don't do it for thanks, Colonel," she said simply, "but I appreciate the sentiment." I noticed the Reaper ring catching the light on her finger. "The ring," I said, gesturing. She allowed a small nod, almost imperceptible. And, in that moment, I realized I had only ever scratched the surface of what people like her were capable of. "What does it really mean?" I asked, nodding toward the black band on her finger. Evelyn looked down at it, thoughtful. "Different things to different operators," she said. "For some, it's a reminder of what we've given up by vanishing from official records. For others, it's a connection to the few who truly understand what we do. And for you, for me." She lifted her gaze, meeting mine. "It's a reminder that the most important work often happens in the shadows. Recognition isn't the same as value." Dawn painted the mountains gold as she packed her duffel, the same unremarkable bag she had arrived with. Nothing hinted at the exceptional operator beneath the quiet exterior. I found her at the base perimeter, watching the sunrise spill over the peaks. "Your transport's ready," I said. She nodded, but didn't move right away. "It was an honor working with you, Colonel," she said, once you stopped dismissing my tactical advice. "The honor was mine," I replied with genuine respect, though I wish I'd realized what I was dealing with sooner. She shook her head. "No, you weren't supposed to recognize it. That's the point." I straightened and offered a formal salute, a gesture of deep respect rarely given to anyone without visible rank. Evelyn returned it flawlessly, precise military bearing perfectly maintained, the discipline she had concealed during weeks as support staff now unmistakable. "Where will you go?" I asked as I lowered my hand. "Back to being invisible," she said simply. "That's the job." She walked toward the waiting transport, disappearing into the morning light. I watched for a moment, then noticed a helicopter arriving with new personnel, rotations and replacements for the base. Among them, one figure moved deliberately, blending into the flow with the same quiet anonymity I had learned to recognize. I addressed Reeves without breaking my gaze. Ensure every member of this team is treated with respect, regardless of their designated role. We never know who's really watching over us. Yes, sir, Reeves replied, a knowing look in his eyes. I approached the helicopter, greeting each new arrival carefully. When I reached the unassuming figure, our eyes met briefly. Nothing was said, but I noticed the subtle weight of their duffel, the calluses on their trigger finger, the constant, quiet vigilance in their gaze, scanning even while appearing relaxed. I offered my hand. Welcome to Ironclad. I look forward to working with you, whatever your role may be. A flicker of surprise passed across their face, quickly controlled. Thank you, Colonel. I'm just support staff. There's no such thing as just support staff on my base, I replied. Everyone here serves a purpose. As I walked away, I glanced back once more. Evelyn's transport was winding down the mountain road, another anonymous journey for a woman whose greatest victories would never appear on a report or in a commendation. But I would remember, and next time I would look more closely at the quiet figures on the edges, the ones who never sought recognition but deserved it more than anyone. The mountains stood silent, sentinel around the base, peaks disappearing into low-hanging clouds. Somewhere beyond those summits, Evelyn would become someone else, slip into another role, watch from another shadow. And somewhere some other commander would be about to make the same mistake I had, dismissing someone as just support staff, unaware they were standing in the presence of a ghost.